What's
How you
up?
doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good morning.
It's going to be 108 here today.
It's gonna be pretty warm here as well, but not
Really?
108.
Really? Well, and our low humidity will probably be around 5%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when it's that hot, what do you do?
Well, you'd stay inside. Seriously, yeah, you don't go outside much. And you know, cars are air conditioned. Everybody, you know, goes from an air conditioned building to an air conditioned car. The hard part for us, you know, the distillery's not. It only has what we call evaporative cooling, and so it's not air conditioning. Anyway, it can get a little warm in there. And when we're malting, and when we're drying the malt with the mesquite fire.
Okay, hold up. You're taking us way too fast.
Oh, sorry. Well,
Wait a second. We'll get there. I promise.
yeah,
We'll
okay.
get there. All right. We got an hour before it cuts us off.
Okay.
All right. So tell us who you are, your name, where you from, and what you do.
I'm Stephen Paul. Have lived in Tucson, Arizona since 1962.
Wow.
Love this place. It's a beautiful, beautiful desert. I know that sounds odd to some people, but the desert is just exquisite. And I run Hamilton Distillers. We make whiskey Del Bach. And our goal in this project was to make a very southwestern American single malt whiskey. And should I tell you how that started?
Okay, stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
We get into how that started, but not at the moment.
Okay.
So we're gonna go through a series of questions first, and then we'll go through your journey. You can take us back. I like to start from high school, a little bit before, to all of the things that pointed you in the direction that you're in now.
Okay.
All right, so what word or phrase do you overuse?
Say that one more time.
What word or phrase do you overuse?
Wow. You know, let's get it done.
I like that. And these are life questions, not word questions.
Yeah.
All right. What is your least favorite thing to do?
Ooh, my least favorite thing to do is speak in public, actually.
Really?
It's true. If this is okay, but if I was standing up on a podium in front of a microphone and in front of 100 people, I'd hate it.
So what if it was 5 people?
That'd be okay.
All right. What is your most favorite thing to do?
Well, it's going to be very general, but my most favorite thing to do is to see things come to fruition that I've started. I always have perceived my kind of role as my job is to make things happen.
All right. What is the one thing your spouse would change about you?
My spouse?
Yes.
Well, I read a lot, and I don't get around to read. So I collect a lot of reading materials, magazines, newspapers, books. I have piles of them all over the place. She hates the piles.
So she would say, you need to clean up, man.
Yeah, that's it.
If you were in a bar and a fight broke out, would she be most likely to call the police or grab the gun?
Or grab a gun, you said?
Or grab a gun?
I wouldn't do either one. I'd probably just leave.
It's not the question, man. You're in a scenario, a fight broke out in a bar. Would she be willing to get a gun or call the cops?
I mean, I couldn't, so I would not get a gun.
Not you. What would she do?
Oh, but my wife. Oh, I'm sorry. No, she wouldn't get a gun. She'd call the cops.
She'd call the cops.
Yeah.
All right. If you had to travel across country on a motorcycle, who would it be with?
It'd be with my wife.
All right.
We love hanging out. We're like best friends.
Okay. All right. One more spouse question, and then we get to the rest of the questions. Maybe not a spouse question. If you had to go to a card game, right? You have to take one person, and possibly a fight would break out. Who would you take with you?
What is it with all this fighting?
It's just a question, man. It's life.
I would take someone a lot younger than me, probably my daughter's boyfriend.
Can you play cards?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. What makes you tick?
What makes me tick?
Yep.
Curiosity.
Okay. What irks you the most?
Rude people.
Handcuffs or scarves?
Say what?
Handcuffs or scarves?
Handcuffs
Or scarves?
or scarves?
Yep. Pick one.
Scarves.
Okay. What sound makes you the happiest?
Sound.
Yeah, what sound makes you the happiest?
Wow. My dog playing. She does these little yips, but when she's super happy.
What sound bothers you the most?
Boy. A machine that has broken at the distillery. You know how that is. You know how that is, right?
Yes. A machine going bad is not a good thing.
No.
What's your favorite cuss word?
It's just damn.
Okay.
I say damn a lot.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to try?
Archaeology.
Okay. Any particular reason?
I've always been, I actually spent 2 years in the anthro department when I first went to college. And I just always, because of my great aunt, Nina, she instilled this love of indigenous cultures and archaeology in me.
Very nice. All right. What would you want on your tombstone?
He tried hard.
All right, cool. Okay, so now we get into the conversation.
All right.
So what we want to go through is, your younger life, the things that have impacted you, the people who've impacted you, the different jobs you've had that led to you doing what you do now.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, so anyway, yeah, grew up in Tucson. I grew up in an ultra right-wing family, which is not the way I look at the world now. But that was an odd upbringing.
But that was common back at that time, though.
Yeah. I mean, my parents were bigoted, just really, you see it on TV all the time. Like, yeah, that was my parents. Although as my mom got older, she really came around and she really got liberal and opened up, which was awesome. Yeah, so just went to high school, it was, I was like very narrow, I have to say, in high school. So then once I went to college, which was just here in Tucson, went to the University of Arizona.
What'd you study?
Pardon?
What'd you study?
First I studied anthropology, and then I realized that I'd be, if I had a degree in anthropology, I'd probably end up pumping gas. In those days, gas stations. You know, you worked at a gas station. But anyway, you had to pump.
Popular, but not in a good
pump
way.
gas. Anyway, so then I went into, and I actually went into education because of my upbringing. I wanted to make a difference in kids' lives. And so I actually got a degree in education, taught at an open school with these Catholic nuns who were like incredible role models. I wasn't Catholic, but it was an open school where kids got to make choices during the day. It was awesome. I taught school for 8 years. I developed an environmental education program. We had 10 acres of desert that we built a school on, and
Wow.
and I got the opportunity to develop an environmental education program on this 10 acres of desert. We put in animals, nature.
Is the school still there?
It is, yeah.
Are you still involved?
No, no. So I taught school for 8 years. I was a really good teacher, if I could say that, but I started to feel less patient than I had been. And so in 1980, I quit teaching. I just thought, okay, there's something missing here, and I don't want to be short with kids or my colleagues or anything like that. And so I stopped teaching, went to architecture school for 2 years, realized that I'd be ancient by the time I was licensed. Because it's a 5-year program, I had to start over. And then there's a 3-year apprenticeship. So I was doing historic restorations on old adobes in our neighborhood. We live in downtown Tucson in an old, 1850s neighborhood. And I ended up making some kitchen cabinets and 2 armoires or wardrobes for this couple that had an old adobe. And I did them in a fashion that would have been seen in Tucson in the late 1800s when this adobe was built. It was just kind of a very low-key Victorian style. And I did it out of pine, which would have been the wood that we got from the mountains here down in the desert. And that launched, so I did adobe restoration for quite a while, and that's basically glorified construction. And as I was getting older, I thought, I don't want to do construction for the rest of my life, so I opened a business called Arroyo Design, which lasted for 30 years, and it ended up specializing in mesquite wood.
Okay, so Royal Design, what did you do there?
At Arroyo Design?
Yes.
Well, I designed and manufactured furniture.
Wow.
And
most of your audience right now is that's what I do.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So, yeah, which is awesome. I've seen your website. It's very cool. And I love the fact that you're salvaging. It's great. In fact, my wife grew up in Brooklyn Heights, and there's a couple of buildings I think that you got lumber from that were in Brooklyn Heights, and I was showing her those. But anyway,
Small world.
it is a small world, yeah.
I randomly find you on the internet, and your wife is from Brooklyn.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, then, so I designed furniture and made furniture, and at our peak or whatever, the highest number of employees we had was 15.
15 or 50?
Pardon?
How many?
15.
Yeah, that's still a lot.
It's a lot for me. But anyway, that was a great company. We were much published, had a bunch of national exposure. We made furniture for a bunch of famous people. The best thing so it never made us a lot of money. It supported us, as you know, I'm sure. But it made us a living, and we the best thing out of that business was the people we met. It was, and we have so many friends today that we met through that business. So anyway, then Mesquite is visually spectacular, but it has you have a lot of waste in it because it's full of cracks, knots, and wormholes. You'll find barbed wire embedded in it, nails, sometimes bullets.
Yeah, urban trees.
Yeah, so the bullets aren't a problem because the lead is so soft it won't damage your cutter heads. But so bottom line is there's a lot of scrap, a lot of waste. And I would always take my mesquite scraps home to barbecue with. And I was always tell my wife, those are our profits going up in smoke, only half joking. And we've always been Scotch drinkers. And one evening in late 2006, we're drinking Scotch and barbecuing. And my wife goes, why couldn't you dry malt over a mesquite fire instead of a peat fire like they do in Scotland? And I was like, just captivated by that idea. Got a little 5-gallon still from Portugal, started messing around, started tasting good, and I could ramble on here, but it ultimately led to this distillery that we have now, which is a 500-gallon system with our own malt house. And
so this came from you and your wife sitting out by the fire and her thinking, you know what? Why don't we try what we have locally?
Yeah. And
how long ago was that?
That was in late 2006 was the idea. And then I kept running Arroyo Design for a long time, finally closed it in 2013 while I was putting together this larger distillery. But I should say that both of these projects came out of a love of place. And the furniture business happened because I was looking around at other woodworkers and realizing that all of the woods that they were using for really cool grain came from the rainforest. So a bunch of exotics people were using if you wanted special grain. And I realized we have, growing all around us, we have this native tree that is beautiful. And so that business ended up growing out of, a love of design, but also a love of regionalism. And then same thing happened with the whiskey business. I mean, that was out of the same desire to make something of the place we live in.
So now you got the whiskey business going. You first started with a 5-gallon?
A little 5-gallon still, and messed around with that for a while. I had one old customer from the furniture business, not old customer, but at that time customer, and I kept tasting him on my progress, and he kept going like, wow, this is starting to taste really good. If you ever get serious, let me know, because I'd like to help you do something. And ultimately, he put in a little money. We got a 40-gallon still. Our daughter, and I partitioned off an area in our finishing department, my daughter said, like, Dad, we got to get licensed here. We got to get legal. Because we would always give tours of the wood shop. We've always been into education because we were, at that time, every woodworker had gone to dowel construction and, a bunch of, things that weren't, a bunch of joinery techniques that weren't being used anymore. So we were using a lot of mortise and tenon. We were book matching all our tops and panels. We had to kiln dry the mesquite because you can't buy mesquite dry.
And how long ago were you doing this?
How long ago?
Yeah, like when did you start?
I started the business in '86, and my wife came into the business in '89, and she actually ended up starting a whole interior design business that was an offshoot. And in fact, in 2000. in 2008, she and a friend who lives in New York opened up a store down in Tribeca called Paul Cone Design. Unfortunately, that was right before the recession hit, and so it only left, and it was right by the financial district, which we thought was a really good idea, but anyway, so that only lasted a couple of years. Our daughter ended up managing that business. But anyway, where was I?
The 5-gallon still.
Oh yeah, yeah. So 5-gallon still, 40-gallon still, and then my daughter like made me get licensed, and so she helped me actually set up an LLC and do all the local, state, and federal compliance
So
stuff.
you're not making moonshine.
Yeah, exactly. So on a little 5-gallon still, they're not going to really care about you because, you know, there's no, like, they're not losing any money off the...
What about on the 40-gallon still?
And a 40-gallon still might start to be something for concern because you can probably make enough product off of that to sell, and they want their, you know, the feds want their tax money. And
Always.
yeah.
Always.
And so anyway, yeah, we...
Okay, wait, one second, Paul. How many bottles would a 40-gallon distill make? What size bottle? Were you bottling it at this time?
We started bottling in early 13, yeah. So the still came in, I think, late 11. We started distilling, and we filled off of that 40-gallon still. We filled 31 15-gallon barrels. But I was still running the furniture business, and so I was kind of going back and forth.
This was your side hustle.
Huh?
This was your side hustle.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's how many bottles is a question that it would depend on how much the still was being used, like how, you know, how much it was running. But over a year, we filled, you know, 31 barrels, and then we took that to the local Tucson marketplace, and it was very warmly received. And then we got funding to build out this 500-gallon system with a 5,000-pound malt facility. And actually, most of our investors came from the furniture. We're old customers from the furniture company, which was awesome.
Wow. So
one of the weird things about our Arroyo Design is that we guaranteed our furniture ongoing because mesquite has cracks in it. We would kiln dry it. I put in a kiln. We would fill those cracks with epoxy, which we tinted black. And epoxy has very high adhesion as well as the capacity to fill. But people would come in and say, like, well, this stuff cracked once. Will it crack again? And mesquite didn't have a good reputation, and I wanted to build that reputation. And so I would always tell people, no, it won't crack again because we've taken all these steps to make sure it doesn't. And we would also like kind of stress test member, like a chair member that might be delicate, to make sure it wasn't going to break. Anyway, so I said, if anything ever happens to this stuff, we'll take care of it. Like, as long as you're here and we're here. And so I had a couple of friends that went to business school. They thought I was insane for guaranteeing our stuff ongoing. But what it did, plus the attention we gave to all the custom designs and, you know, people's attending to people's needs and stuff like that, we built a great kind of trust with our customers. So that's why almost all of our initial investors were customers from the furniture business.
I think, no, I said it because it's more furniture guys just got on. Now, Stephen Paul made furniture in the 80s, mesquite, and he did it for 30 years, stopped in 2013. he went into this distillery, and the customers and the clientele and relationships he built off of furniture making, he took him with him to another venture. It's amazing.
It's been very rewarding, and like I said earlier, the best thing about the furniture business was the friends we made through the furniture business. It was like, yeah.
And let me know, I had no idea that you had made furniture before this. I brought you on to talk about whiskey.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
that's life pointing us back to where we should be.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
amazing.
How did you get into it?
Yeah, and as I got into this, trying to build a house.
That'll do it.
Yeah, and of course the house never got built because I got distracted.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But I was trying to build a house. I wanted fancy floors, fancy countertops, fancy cabinets. You know, I got distracted and never looked back.
Uh-huh. So did you look for salvaged wood for that project? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking, this was 14, 15 years ago. I was looking for salvaged wood, and I only saw it being made into firewood or mud.
Oh God.
So I spoke to a couple of tree cutters, like, hey, how much would it cost for you to deliver that to me? And this was 100 miles from the city, where my place was upstate.
Okay.
And one particular company, Ofsted, would deliver me a 40-yard container for $500.
Wow.
I mean, that's gas in a big truck there and back.
Yeah.
So we
That's
did that
amazing.
maybe 10 times. I had a lot of wood.
So
I
then
had to
what?
cut up and cut up and cut up, and it was a lot. And I started selling it.
And what?
I started selling it because it was so much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got started. But, you know, it was a lot more time over that, and a lot more effort. But yeah, that was pretty much how it all happened.
Huh.
All right, so how long have you had the 500-gallon still?
How long have we had that? We started production on the 500-gallon still in December of 14. So It's been, last December it was, so it's been 5.5 years.
All right, so how has that growth impacted your business, and what did that do to you?
So the business has grown a lot. We're in 14 states. New York is a pretty good market for us, but our biggest market is Arizona. And because of this, so I had been running so over the last couple of years, the business has gotten more complex than my skill set.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like personnel issues, financial issues, so it was just grew to something. Yeah, right. There you go. You know it. And so one of the biggest surprises for me was how much I needed to promote. Like get this. I used to work 60 hours a week, typical, at the furniture. And we were doing custom pieces almost all the time. We had a few standard pieces that we would do, but even those we would change a little thing on if somebody wanted it. So it was very labor intensive. And when I started the distillery, I told my wife, this is going to be so much easier because we're making the same thing every day. We're not going to do custom. Well, that turned out not to be true. And partly because of the effort you need to put into promotion. So we need to be in the marketplace in Georgia or New York or Connecticut or California. So anyway,
Okay, so hold on one second. When you said be in the marketplace, would you send people to these different locations, or would you go yourself?
Both, yeah. But even when I sent people, I still had to deal with that, all the budgeting and all the follow-up. It just was really complicated. And so I realized about a year and a half ago that the business was more complex than my skill set, than my abilities. It needed someone to manage the business.
It outgrew you.
It outgrew me, yeah. And so finally, in this past January, we hired a CEO, which is great. I'm like so thrilled. Love him. We work really well together. He was operations VP for a distillery in Utah called High West Distillery for 7 years. They were very successful. Anyway, long story short, that has been great. I'm sleeping at night. And
I'm not.
No, I know. I'm sure you're not. I know.
And now that half of the people on here.
Right. How old are you?
49.
49? Okay. You look good for 49. But yeah, so that hopefully you'll get to a point at some point where you can maybe have someone help manage. But anyway, so how has it affected?
Back up 1 second. I want to talk about the marketing part, because that is a big issue for a lot of us. How do you get yourself out there? How do you budget? What are you going to put toward marketing? What impact does it have on your company, and how much does that make you grow?
Well, let me go back to the furniture bit part, because that's most of your viewers are probably interested in that, right?
Yeah, whatever, however, both actually.
Yeah, so
is marketing.
Okay, so with Arroyo Design, we ended up getting a lot of press, partly because of the mesquite. I think you can get, you're kind of doing something unusual too. Like if you're doing something unusual, that'll get attention. And so we got a bunch of, the press was like amazing. And we did advertise, but anytime someone's doing an article on you that you're not paying for, people like sit up and pay attention. And so our house was published in a bunch of, magazines when there were more magazines out there. Anyway, so that was key to our promotion efforts. We did advertise both in nationally and locally, mostly locally, but we tried to keep the ads really tasteful, and we tried to portray how we were different. So we would push the mesquite, we would push our very kind of understated design sense. And so anything you can do to kind of set yourself apart in your promotion efforts, that's what you need to do. So same thing with the whiskey business.
Because let me, and I wanted to say that to say that in the whiskey business, it's not like in the wood business where a lot of people are getting into it. So how do you deal with that where in every state there's some guy wanting to make local whiskey?
Yeah.
How do you hop into that market? I mean, people like whiskey, so they'll drink it. People collect it.
Yeah. So that's tough. When I started distilling, I didn't know that there was a movement out there. And I thought what I was doing was like really exotic. Like, wow, this is so cool. No one's doing this. You
turned on the TV or the internet.
Yeah, right. And then after I got into it, I realized, holy cow, there's like a bunch of people doing this. But anyway, so yeah, we need to. So first of all, we're making single malt whiskey, which bourbon is the most popular whiskey in America. It's kind of perceived as the American whiskey. And and so that's a battle. But it's also an advantage because we are one of the few distilleries in the country that are solely devoted to American single malts. We don't make gin, bourbon, vodka, anything else. We're only making American single malts.
Okay, for 1 second, for those who don't know, a single malt is a single whiskey as opposed to a blended whiskey, which is what most things are. They're a combination of things to get a flavor right, and a single malt is pure.
Yeah. So the basic definition of a single malt whiskey is 100% barley malt recipe or mash bill, distilled twice in a pot still, and all made in the same distillery. So, for example, Dewar's, which is a blended Scotch, as you just described this, but they'll buy whiskeys from, I don't know, 20 different distilleries that they've been buying from for many, many decades. They know the product really well. And they blend those whiskeys into what goes into a bottle of Dewar's, like you were saying. But single malt is just all made in the same distillery. So,
yeah, Bourbon Texan says he loves single malts.
Awesome. Yeah, we're available in New York. So, yeah.
No, the Bourbon Texan is probably in Texas.
Say again?
The Bourbon Texan is probably in Texas.
Probably so. We're actually, Texas is one of our markets. It's not as, we don't have as big a bandwidth in Texas as we do in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but yeah.
So how do you infiltrate these markets? How do you get in?
You have to find a distributor who thinks you're worth bringing into their portfolio. Our distributor in New York is called Skurnik Wines, and they're amazing. They're one of the two best distributors we have. But so anyway, you contact, and so it's hard because the market is saturated, and so you have to set yourself apart and kind of do a sales job. Explain why you're worth bringing in.
I remember hearing the stories about the rappers, right? And they couldn't get, when it first started, they couldn't get the big distributors and record companies to distribute their stuff. So they make their own stuff, they put in the trunk of their car, and they go door to door.
That's one way.
Have you done anything like that at all?
Not with the whiskey, but we did with the furniture. And when you say door to door, I mean, we would take one of our really cool looking chairs and just literally take it around to showrooms and use that to show people. And with the whiskey, we do something kind of similar in that we go to a lot of bars.
That's door to door.
Yeah, that's door to door, really. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, we do a lot of work in bars. Primarily, those are with the sales reps from the distributor. But we'll do cold calls without the sales reps as well. So yeah, I guess we do go door to door. It's just bars, not.
Yes, not literally home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked in a bar for 20 years. I worked at Four Seasons Hotel.
Oh yeah, okay.
In Manhattan.
Awesome.
So we would get people coming in all the time trying to sell their whiskey, but we would also get guys like you who own will come and be like, hey, taste this. Hey, taste that. Where's the F&B manager? Where's the bar manager?
Yeah.
And they were pushing their stuff.
That's it.
It's easier in New York because there's so many.
Yeah.
So you can go there and cover a lot of ground in a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's dense.
Yeah.
Which is very handy.
Yep. So what do you find is your most, you spoke about a few things. What is your most challenging and gratifying thing about doing this?
The most challenging thing up until we hired the CEO was managing it. Now the most challenging thing.
Where you want to go for vacation?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was going to say, but actually a little before that, because I'm not quite there yet, but and I don't play golf, so you know. But the most challenging thing right now for me is kind of navigating my role, because I'm used to making decisions, and I absolutely love the fact that he's making decisions, and so kind of. But it's weird because I haven't been an actual employee really since I taught school in the 70s. Or 1980 was the last time and so I've been self-employed ever since then, and that is actually a huge relief to me that I am and kind of like an employee.
Yeah.
But it's also odd. It feels odd, and so that kind of navigating that change is odd. And then what was your second question?
What's the most gratifying?
The most gratifying is to see people loving our whiskey, and we get all kinds of compliments, and yeah, it's great. We win a bunch of awards. We just got a score of 89 in the last Whiskey Advocate. We were just in an article in Forbes magazine. I mean, just so getting attention, positive attention, and seeing people appreciate what we do is the most gratifying.
The same thing you did in the furniture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, at what point did you realize you were onto something?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, I didn't plan on getting to where I am. It just started kind of like one thing led to another. And like, first of all, when that first customer gave me money to invest in the 40-gallon still, when someone gives you money, you got to get serious.
Let me tell you, I always joke about this, about making furniture. You know this, right? It's fine until people pay you. And once people pay you, it's not a game anymore.
Exactly.
Because they need their stuff.
They need their stuff. They're serious, and you got to be serious too.
Absolutely.
We always took a deposit of half down, and then balance on completion. So when you're
let me ask you this. When you took half down, did you get paid before you delivered it, or after, and you wait for them to pay?
If it was going out of town, we got paid before, and if it was delivered locally, we got paid when we delivered it.
Okay, all right. So we have a comment here. Aaron M. Krause, Delback is a really special whiskey. The mesquite gives it quite a unique smoky flavor, different than our single malts. Lucky to have visited there a few times, spent a little time with Steve. And due to COVID, you're not in the still. You're at home.
Correct, but we're still producing. My wife has a medical condition that would be so she's got to really protect herself. So I'm basically protecting her. I'm going in a little bit. Excuse me. I just saw Mark Zepp is watching, which is awesome. He's here locally and has helped us financially as well.
What's up,
hey,
Mark Zepp?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we're still.
Wait a second. Was Mark Zepp a furniture client as well?
No, he wasn't. No.
Okay.
He's a friend of a friend, essentially, and so he's really a great guy. I've really enjoyed getting to know him.
The world needs more of those.
Yeah. I gardened, and I gave him some beet greens, and he cooked up these beet greens that looked awesome. And I keep meaning to get his recipe for him.
So you garden. How long have you gardened?
I've gardened since I was about 20 years old.
Okay. All right. So we can talk. What do you grow?
Well, right. Southern Arizona is kind of,
I say that because I grow as well.
I gather. That's great.
And I ask how long, because some people grow and some people grow. So
I can tell you grow.
yes. So go ahead. What do you grow?
Well, so first of all, in Southern Arizona, you can grow things all year round, which is really cool. Winter crops here are all the root vegetables, and all the like leafy chard, lettuce, etc., carrots.
I love rutabaga.
They're my favorite root vegetable.
I love white beets.
Yeah.
Yellow beets.
Although parsnips are a close second to rutabagas. But anyway, so also peas are a winter crop here. Summer crops are corn, beans, squash, essentially. Tomatoes grow so once it hits above 90 degrees, tomato flowers won't set. So we can't, in the dead of summer, I can't grow tomatoes. But right now, I just have two kinds of squash. I've got cucumbers and, three kinds of squash. One winter squash, which is, I'm growing butternut squash. Me too. And it's going bananas right now. It's doing great. And so are the cucumbers. So anyway, that's...
So the cucumbers, do you pickle?
No, I won't. I mean, I never have, but...
It's a question.
But yeah, so that's all.
What about garlic?
Pardon?
Do you grow garlic?
I did try garlic. It never really did well for me. I have our yard is a little bit light constricted. So for example, I don't have enough light in my yard to grow corn, I love corn.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and so anyway, there's certain things I can't grow because of our, I've got kind of, morning and afternoon shade.
Let me ask you a corn question. Do you eat it raw?
Yeah. I mean, if it's good and sweet, sure, love it.
I tell a story when there was a guy in upstate New York. He was a Porsche buddy. He restored. I played with Porsches and Volkswagens. He played with for a living. He restored, fixed Porsches and Mercedes Benz. And I would be up hunting wood, hunting antiques, and he would always be a stop on the way back. And I'd have either antique beams on the trailer,
oh wow,
or some machine.
Yeah.
And I'd also have a couple of bags of produce in the van. And he'd always be like, what you got? So I had a couple of big bags of corn. So he reaches into the bag of corn, he peels it, bites it. And he goes, this is good. And he walks away and he keeps eating it. And I'm like, you eat that raw? He goes, how do you know it's any good if you don't eat it?
Yeah, I guess.
And that taught me that's how I pick corn.
Yeah, it is. It's really good raw. Although, I'm also very fond of butter. So.
Okay, now Ricardo in Brazil asked about your work. Now, Ricardo, this is the funny part. He made furniture for 30 years. He doesn't make it anymore. He makes whiskey now. The clients that he had in the furniture industry invested in his whiskey distillery. Is any of your stuff on the internet? Can it be found?
The furniture?
Yes.
I think our old website may still be up. I'm not sure it is, but if it's just called Arroyo Design, and that's ARROYO Design.
Arroyo Design.
Yeah, if it is up, it is a very old website, and I'm sure there's places you can't get to on it anymore. It was very kind of static. So I last time I went to it, and I don't know if it's still up. But anyway, you try to click on a collection of ours, and you couldn't get there. But anyway, yeah, go see it's Arroyo Design.
But don't you think you should keep that going just as a connection, as a part of your journey?
Yeah,
not the furniture, just the site.
Yeah. that's why I never took it down. But it's so static. If it is up, it's almost a detriment because you can't get anywhere in it. But I did send you some pictures, right? Did you get the pictures?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You sent me some pictures, and I'm like, why is he sending me pictures of tables?
Yeah, there's that one shot. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up right quick.
Well,
Wait,
you know
keep
what?
talking.
That one kind of daybed really shows, or that kind of lounge thing really shows the grain of mesquite, which is really cool.
Ah!
Yeah. Yeah. So it's too small to really see the grain, but although yeah, that's better. Yeah. Yeah, you're getting a sense of that.
That's the showroom.
Yeah, that was actually a gallery show that we had set up. Yeah, a lot of tables in there. So how much? What a percentage of your business is lumber sales versus furniture?
I don't sell enough lumber.
That's the easy one, right?
Exactly. And that's what I want to do is I want to sell the lumber, get it out of there, and not have to deal with a deposit, a design,
Yeah.
a check-in, a callback, an email, an employee making sure that the seam is right,
Yeah.
the finish is right. Probably 20% of it is lumber.
Okay.
But I have 1 million board feet of lumber as well.
Well, that's
And
good.
as we talk about, I always said Tuscan luthiers lose mesquite for the guitars as well. Very nice. I guess that was if the grain is good. That's Mark Zepp.
Wait, you say you have some mesquite?
No.
No.
Mark Zepp said that there are Tuscan luthiers who use mesquite on the guitar.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
I don't have any mesquite. It's too far away. What I do is only local stuff.
Yeah. Well, but the cool thing is that some of that old growth wood is just, beautiful. And I saw you have some pretty weird things that anymore wouldn't be used in construction. It seems like, I don't know, hickory or something, or
Southern yellow pine, redwood.
That you have?
Yeah, I have hickory. I have 25, 30 different species. Now, hickory is not used in construction, but it's used in furniture, make tables out of it.
Okay.
I get a decent amount of calls of people looking for hickory.
But what I mean is, that was salvaged out of a building, right?
No.
No.
You're talking about white pine, southern yellow pine, and Douglas fir.
Okay. So you're getting some logs. You're getting some things that aren't salvaged.
Well, yeah, it all is and it's not. Like we get stuff out of buildings, that's quote unquote salvage. But we also salvage trees that are fallen, trees that have come down. We don't buy anything standing.
Okay.
Everything we get is already fallen for one reason or another.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know some, like walnut trees people are poaching walnut trees because the wood's so valuable.
Yeah, I have a lot of walnut.
Yeah, that's cool.
And what I've been able to do is, because I know a lot of guys in the industry, some guys aren't doing as well as they were, and they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I go out and make a deal, pay for it, can't afford it, but I get it and figure it out later.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes you sit on things for a long time. I've been there. We would have, because mesquite is so hard to get, we would have a yard of, thousands of board feet air drying, because just of the logistics of it. And then I'd air dry it first, and then sometimes because of our very low humidity, I would never have to put like 4/4 stuff into the kiln, but mostly I'd air dry it and then finish it in the kiln. But particular trees or thicknesses or whatever, I could end up sitting on for a long time because they were so either odd or special. Sometimes odd and special are the same.
I'm about to say that both.
Yeah, but sometimes odd is just odd.
Yes, it's just odd. And
Yeah.
you may sit on it for a while. I have some 33-foot walnut boards.
33-foot walnut boards. Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome. Wow.
No, we got the furniture guys asking questions, right? How about production run for furniture that a store would sell? Is that possible in this day? And how big? DWR and other similar countries.
You're asking me?
Yeah, they're asking us. Or I'm wondering if they're asking me.
You go first.
Now see, I do custom work. I don't do stuff for stores. I go straight to the designer into the building.
Yeah.
So you had a line, right?
We did have a line. We had.
So that's more your question.
Okay, we had like three basic collections: an arts and crafts period collection, inspired, kind of a Tucson-based connection that was kind of very understated Victorian, and we had a Biedermeier collection. And so yeah, I loved it when we got an order for standard stuff, because you could just kind of plug and play. Although the mesquite, so wood selection, when you're working with mesquite, is really time consuming. If you want it to look spectacular, and also for other reasons too. But anyway, so the mesquite kind of added a layer, kind of made it not a production run, if you will, because you can't like feed it through a CNC machine. We didn't have CNC, but I'm just saying.
All right, we got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I don't. Yeah. So his question was like, can you do production in this day and age, or custom?
How about a production run of furniture that a store would sell? Is that possible in this day and age, and how big?
The problem is, Restoration Hardware and IKEA are doing production furniture, and so you'd have to be pretty special. But it can be done. It can be done. My friend Scott Baker is doing a line, very, very high end, but he and his wife seem pretty successful at it.
What's his name?
His name is Scott Baker. Their business is called Baker Hesseldens, and so Hesseldens is spelled Hesseldenz. That's his wife. Yeah, look them up. They're really talented.
Okay, yeah, I'll check him out. Maybe we can get him on here.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And I'll tell him you sent me.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. I'm so glad to meet you.
It's a pleasure, my brother. And thank you for your time.
Well,
and maybe sometimes when things open up, we can get a shop tour.
That would be awesome. Yeah, love to do it.
All right, my brother.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you all for tuning in. See you at 6 p.m. with Ceramic Meltdown. A Brooklyn guy's doing ceramics.
All right. Bye, all.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Have a good one.
You too.